You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
It is May 15, 2023, and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we are bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. And today we're back in New Hampshire. We just interviewed Ben Weir. He is the chair of the Merrimack Valley Libertarian Party. He's also an at-large for the state Libertarian Party, and he has run for sheriff there as well. And he is a proud Project Free Stater. We talked with him in detail about a lot of that stuff on the last one. This time we're going to jump into some topics that are kind of in the news and a little bit related to New Hampshire too. But before we get into any of that, let me introduce you to our panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. In our lower right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. In our upper right-hand corner, we have Ben Weir, our guest today. And my name's Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host. So, James, maybe I could get the visual up. PorcFest is right around the corner, and that's a big sort of libertarian convention sort of thing that happens in New Hampshire. I've never been, but Ben, it sounds like you've probably been. You want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, last year was my first PorcFest, and I didn't know what to expect out of like a Free State Project decentralized festival, basically. But you know, all these people in the Free State Project move to New Hampshire to basically decentralize. And then we have a big Liberty Meetup Festival, which sells out every single year. And you have hundreds of hubs, which are basically just, you know, you have an RV site, that's where you're camping, but you also sell things like for your business, or, you know, you can have events there or speakers come. There's actually a list of incredible speakers coming out to speak this year. And there's a schedule, but, you know, probably, you know, 20-25% of the actual stuff that goes on there isn't on any kind of schedule. You know, it's basically just, you know, it's kind of like, it's not just like a bunch of hippies in the woods around campfires, I can tell you that. But, you know, what it is it's just a collection of libertarian ideas from all over the political spectrum. It's not, you know, it's the people who are the most serious about their personal freedom and economic freedom getting together and just having a great time. You know, there's parties and stuff every night, and there's a huge porcupine campfire on Saturday night to end the festival. Common currency that is used is actually fiat. Dollars is looked down upon kind of there. You can use gold, silver, cryptocurrency, and then goldbacks, which if you don't know what goldbacks are, those are awesome. They're basically like, they're like dollars. They're like the shape of, you know, our currency, but they have actual gold printed into them. So they hold the monetary value based on like, you know, like maybe 1/100th of an ounce of gold is printed into this thing. So it holds that value no matter, it fluctuates with the price of gold essentially. But it's a great time. You know, I'm planning to host a couple of events myself at this festival. And I know that they already have 3,000 plus tickets sold, and every single RV site is sold out. Most of the local hotels are selling out. Yeah, at this point, people are just trying to find extra space on the campsites to cram in with other people. So
it sounds almost like a family-friendly Burning Man.
Definitely. It kind of, you know, you can say that, but there is, it's definitely family-friendly. But, you know, as I said, there's people from all over the political spectrum there. So you have, on the far, far corner of the event, you have a body freedom village. So just don't take your kids over to that section if that's something that you're sensitive about. They have hot tubs and parties over there. I don't go there. I've never been there, but it would be probably a great place for James Just to go over and hang out. So I know.
So Ben, we call that body freedom, okay? We don't. That's what we call it now.
I try to stay by
I'd go over there.
and the Free State base tent and the Libertarian Party people over there because have a good time.
Okay.
I think you've almost sold Tim on going there to be a on
Oh,
the scene
yes.
reporter for us.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, I mean, there's whatever floats your boat, man.
Yes.
They got it all over there. Sounds
Yeah.
like.
Well, is this tied in any way to the Project Free State as well?
This is put on by the Free State Project, so it's to encourage people to move to New Hampshire, which is the libertarian homeland. So we want every person with libertarian-minded principles to move here. And what better way than to showcase all of the things that libertarian folk represent, at this festival. Like, you have hundreds of different ideas coming together to sell and barter. One of my good friends actually had an ATF stand where he just sold alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, which was pretty great. And like I said, like the currency, it shows off like alternative currency, which is really cool because obviously our fiat currency is tanking more every single day. And, precious metals and crypto seem to be doing the opposite. So just everything that we stand for, it's like you'll find something that you love there. And there's, like I said, there's tons of speakers, there's comedians. The word is that Tulsi Gabbard is actually coming to speak. And while she's not a libertarian, I know that there's some people that think that she's a more libertarian leaning Democrat, or at least a moderate Democrat. RFK Jr. is coming to speak as well. I probably won't be attending either of them because I actually don't really care about what they have to say. But they have something for everyone. That's really what the point is that I'm trying to get across, is that, if you have something that you're passionate about, you're going to find it there. So
I go see Tulsi just to see her in that white jumpsuit. She looks.
Maybe she'll sing you some Hawaiian songs and by the campfire.
Well, if you hadn't sold Tim with a hot tub area, then I'm sure you got him.
Tulsi will sell him in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Well, other things are going on in New Hampshire. The presidential race is now fast approaching. If there's any doubt that anybody has, Donald Trump was just there campaigning. He had a CNN town hall that was kind of exciting, but it always brings up the issue of New Hampshire is always the first state in those primaries, and there's an actual controversy this time because the Democrats are kind of trying to move it. So I think they want to move it to South Carolina or something. And but somehow New Hampshire has this sort of locked in the past. And Governor Sununu there has saying, hey, we're sticking with this no matter what. So tell me, what do you think about the whole, first primary thing for New Hampshire?
Yeah, everything that I'm hearing from my community and people that I trust is that New Hampshire will be the first primary. It's going to happen this way. Even if the national parties or National Democratic Party decides they want to move it, New Hampshire's still going to go against that, which is good for the non-institutional Democrats, like people who are running that have announced so far, like RFK. Like, if they wanted to have some success somewhere, it'd be somewhere that the DNC isn't touching. So maybe he'd have some success here. But people who are more underdogs in the Democratic Party, they should be focusing on New Hampshire, since we will be the first, and basically going against everything the DNC is trying to do. But this is the state's decision, and I believe they're going to stick to it. I believe it's literally in our Constitution or something like that. So, or at least their their personal, like, policies or whatever. I'm not really sure how the Democrats work there, but everything I've read is that we will be the first in the nation primary here. And that is very good for non-institutional candidates in the Democrat Party. So.
Yeah, it does seem like kind of a weird issue, the idea that, it's sort of like, why don't all states go at the same time? But then if one of them wants to put it in their constitution, what if all of them put it in their constitution to be first? It just seems kind of like a crazy thing, but somehow New Hampshire has managed to keep that going strong for so many years. So it just seems kind of like, I wouldn't mind if on principle they said, hey, why doesn't everybody go at the same time? But to say that we don't want it to be New Hampshire because we don't think it's the right demographic, that just kind of rubs me the wrong way. And that seems to be what the Democrats are saying, I think.
The Democrats
maybe we're just not progressive enough.
Race and equity and all the other BS, it's always, South Carolina is the Democratic Party in South Carolina is heavily black. Fine, nobody have a problem with that. But the reason that they want to move it to South Carolina is for that reason. And this is all this woke garbage is just unbelievable.
Yeah,
I will say that even among the Democrats that I've met here, they don't really buy into the woke agenda that's been sweeping across most Democrat-run states, and it's very few people like me. If I was a like in charge of the Democratic National Convention or the Democratic primaries or whatever, I probably wouldn't want it in New Hampshire either. This is not a good place to have something like that, especially in a state that's basically being run right now by Republicans on the local level. I don't know. So,
sure.
One thing that was kind of fascinating to see in it, New Hampshire got to be first on it, was the Donald Trump experience for this time around, because he was just there for the CNN debate. And James, maybe you could pull the video on that, and then we could go to the visual as well afterward.
Ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's the answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple to, you're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
It seems more like a comedy show. And you heard the that wasn't even like canned laughter in the back. That was live laughter going on.
That's fantastic. You're a nasty woman. It's just like that's because you'd be in jail.
Yeah,
a couple years back. The sound bites from that man are just incredible.
Yeah. Well, it's just, but it does, essentially tell us that, hey, this is what we've got to look forward to for about the next, year or so.
At least, if he wins, it's going to be for the next 4 years. I don't know if he will, but if he wins, it's going to be for the next 4 years. Trump always had a problem with the mainstream media. And some of it is quite justified, quite frankly, because there's this Trump derangement syndrome out there. These people are just insane about this man for some reason. It is true. Donald Trump has his faults. He has his baggage. But some of their coverage of this man is unbelievable. Some of the things that they have bought into the Russia hoax and all this sort of things about this man is just incredible. So if he wins, going through the primaries, obviously, we're going to be having quite a few discussions about him, because I know he's going to say something that's going to set the mainstream media off. And if he wins, well, then, oh my goodness gracious, we're going to be hearing the word fake news for all eternity. We'll be hearing it over and over and over again, because that's Donald Trump. Somebody shoot at him, he's going to shoot back. Verbally I'm speaking, he's going to shoot back. There's no doubt about that. So we in for a rough ride here, if we can call it rough. Quite a ride, I would say, over the next 1 year, or maybe over the next 4 or 5 years. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. Well, what's kind of funny about all this too is that the fallout from CNN after Trump lost his last election has just been unbelievable to watch. They've lost. Let's see, Brian Stelter. They had Tubin. They finally parted ways with. I guess he's having some fun at another network somewhere.
Too much display for Jeffrey Tubin. Yes.
Yeah, and then Don Lemon, they just
Don
finally got
Lemon.
rid of him, and
Yes.
gosh, oh, and then Cuomo, Chris Cuomo, they got
Chris
rid of
Como
him
was
as
fired.
well.
Yes. That's
And
yes.
so, I mean, it was just an absolute, just disastrous lineup of people at that network. I remember they had the essentially that iconic frame of gaslighting of fiery but mostly peaceful protests. It's like trying to sell this as a peaceful protest. Everything's on fire behind it.
In the background of the reporter, everything is on fire, and they're telling him
Yeah.
fiery but mostly peaceful in the byline at the bottom
Yeah.
of the screen.
Well, but the
Unbelievable.
crazy thing is that they got rid of all these people, so you wonder, okay, were they really going to reform? And then here they are right out of the gate with Trump, and they're literally going right back at it with him. There's no tomorrow, so I don't know. Well, anyways, there's other stuff going on in New Hampshire as well. So with respect to immigration, now who knew that immigration was an issue there? We have this big issue at our southern border with Title 42 ending. And now suddenly, there's going to be essentially tens of thousands of people almost every day. I think they had in that first week since they let it up, I think they said there was over 80,000, and that was only a partial week. So
Yes.
this is, kind of a crazy flood of the border. As a libertarian person, I'm not really, as long as it's not distorted. But the problem is, I mean, it seems like the government is constantly distorting these things so that, offering incentives or other reasons for people to show up. I mean, I think at the southern border, they're literally handing everybody a free phone just for showing up.
Well, they give them a little bag, and it has a free phone in it and other stuff.
Yeah.
Talk about giving them incentives to cross our border.
Yeah.
God.
It's supposed to have something to do with showing up at hearing at some point in the future that's yet to be determined, but otherwise it's known as a free phone because me and you are paying for it.
Yes, exactly.
So, but it's funny because we're seeing that big crisis that big meltdown happen, and it's sort of been happening at various points of the Biden administration. But apparently, James, maybe you could bring up the visual. New Hampshire apparently is concerned about migration at this point too, and the numbers they're talking about seem a lot smaller. 1.4 million extra for border patrols, and I guess they're having to worry more about the north with Canada. Here's that Cato map again. You can see there's that tiny border with Canada up there. So I guess that's where they're coming from. Ben, what's going on with immigration in New Hampshire?
This reminds me so much of an old Mad TV skit that they had that was called Canadian Border Patrol, where they had one person basically running the Canadian Border Patrol from Maine to Michigan. And he says, well, apparently Canada was not the threat that it once used to be. So it's just me. But, apparently, this actually doesn't surprise me at all, because the last several years with all the COVID tyranny that's been happening up in Canada, the trucker convoys and all this stuff, you're going to have some people that want to get out of that hellscape and that government control over that stuff too. So like some of these people are probably seeking asylum here just so they can have more freedom. I wouldn't want to, or maybe, obviously their health system up there is a nightmare, even if it is free. Some people don't want to have to wait a year to get a life-saving transplant or whatever. But in my opinion, the biggest border crisis that New Hampshire has is actually from Massachusetts. We should put a wall along the southern border of New Hampshire, and I would pay for it. I would find the people to pay for it. And I know I'd actually have Massachusetts pay for it. They would pay for it because they're sending up their worst criminals to New Hampshire. I'm just kidding. Obviously, that's a joke. But
well, is that part of the Project Tyranny state that where everybody migrates from Massachusetts to take over?
The people moving here from Massachusetts aren't helping our cause at all. But most of them are coming up here to live and then go back and commute down and work in Boston or whatever. But I don't know, like Chris Sununu, he's a very he doesn't really take a firm stance on a lot of things. So it doesn't really surprise me. He has support from the left and the right here, which is why he overwhelmingly wins with 67, 65%, almost 70% of the vote when he gets elected. He really works both sides of the fence there. He doesn't take a firm stance, but so it doesn't surprise me that he's asking for all this federal aid to help with our borders. But at the same time, maybe we need some more Canadian Border Patrol Mounties to patrol from Maine to Michigan, and it would help a little bit. Maybe Canada should help with that too. I don't know. So
somehow I don't imagine that the border looks anything up there like it does down here.
No, there's snowmobile trails all over the place that just cross the border and come back, and those things aren't guarded at all. Like they don't check passports there. There's so many places to cross the border that you can just drive right across and come back on a snowmobile or something. So, like I said, Canada is not the threat that it once used to be, apparently, because they're just it's pretty much free range, free movement up there, other than on the highways and stuff like that. So,
one other thing I wanted to bring up as well on the whole, I guess, distortion side of things is, there are real impacts. It's funny that, as a liberty-minded person, I mean, I want to see the free movement of people, assuming that there's no government influence going on. If somebody wants to come and work for somebody else in another place, or if they, just want to have a relationship with somebody, I don't want to see the government jumping in the middle of that. But James, maybe you could bring up the visual here. I mean, we have such crazy distortions with our migration system. I mean, here is a thing in New York where apparently they were housing veterans, and I know you were talking, I can't remember, was this show or the last show, Ben, but about PTSD and other things, and here we got these veterans that are being housed there that are homeless veterans, and they're literally kicking them out so that they can make room for the migrants, which it just seems, I mean, why is the government involved in this at all? I'm just like, it doesn't make any sense. Here they are literally, it's certainly they're paying for this hotel too, right? The government's paying for it. It's not like,
well, we're paying for it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just one distortion after another. And one of the funny stories too with New York is, these guys were railing on Eric Adams, I believe is the name of the mayor there. And
yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah, and so they were railing on Greg Abbott down in Texas for busing migrants there, and then suddenly it became a humanitarian crisis in New York, and then his solution to bust the migrants out of New York. So it just is absolutely nuts, the stuff that's going on right now on immigration. But I don't know, either of you guys have any final thoughts on this issue before we leave it?
Well, I have a real problem. I guess, Jesse, I've said this on the program before. I have a real problem with people not respecting our sovereignty, okay? Because we don't allow in our personal sovereignty, my home, we don't allow people to just walk into it. Whether if you're a thief, I will shoot you. If you're the police, you better have a warrant to come into my home, okay? So the sum total of all our personal sovereignties, all the sum total is that place we call the United States of America. Those people who are walking across the border, whether they're doing it in the north or the south, they don't respect our sovereignty. So I don't see why we should be spending any money to take care of these people. They should be returned to where they came from. And Biden, to me, is violating the Constitution by not doing his job, by allowing people to so violate our sovereignty, and he's doing nothing about it. As a matter of fact, he's encouraging it. This is nonsense.
I guess the only thing I would say, since I work with people that both live in Mexico and work for the major company that I'm associated with, put it that way, shipping company, and I asked them what's going on. I haven't gotten a report after Title 42 actually expired, but and they routinely go down to Mexicali and pick freight up and move it back to load up on my plane, for example. And but so far it doesn't seem like there's anything really out of the ordinary, from what I've heard, at least in Mexicali. So I don't know, maybe Texas is having issues, but and then I of course live in San Diego. I don't know, I don't pay much attention to the actual news that a lot of people watch, but I'll try to get it from the horse's mouth, from people that actually cross the border daily to go to work, and see what they say, and I'll report back. But so far it seems like it's been fairly quiet. And again, I might be mistaken in that, but I'll try to get more information as time goes on.
When you say the horse's mouth, though, Tim, is that one of those horses that was running down the immigrants?
Yeah,
that Biden used to running down.
Whipping gate. One thing, okay.
Yeah.
I do not have a problem if there's an orderly process by which people can move between the borders. I have no problem with that. And Tim, what you describing there sounds like an orderly process. I have no problem with that. Okay. Yeah. But I have a big problem with people who don't respect our sovereignty. And those people, since Biden came into office, somewhere between 4 and 7 million people have just walked across our borders. These people don't respect our sovereignty. So I should have no respect for them living in this land that we call the United States of America.
Gotcha. Yeah. All righty. Yeah, great.
I just wish we could get government out of it. We just make it so much better.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be, the borders have to be, if you're going to protect them from people walking back and forth, and you want to have that policy, which has been a policy, oh gosh, it went off and on, in and out. We didn't even have passports for a long time here in the United States and elsewhere too, as far as that goes. So, there was no such thing as a passport, which is, by the way, owned by the government. It says right on it, it's their property. It's not yours. And then this passport was required to go back and forth across the border. That was never a thing until World War I, and then then it went away, and then World War II happened. It's kind of stuck around ever since. But even passports is a thing of government. So if you get government out of it, then you're going to have the ability for people to go back and forth and back and forth. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? Libertarians like to talk about it, and so here we are.
Back and forth, as long as they're not stealing from anybody. What's the problem? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ben.
And I'm not like an open borders libertarian. I actually believe in privatized borders, which is ultimately, I think, is property rights are extremely important and they need to be respected. But if I'm welcoming somebody onto my property and to my land, they shouldn't need to have a passport to come and visit me. That's ultimately where I draw my line in that sand. But when it comes to national borders or whatever, privatizing the land and which allows people to have free movement, which is a constitutional right, freedom to travel, that basically would solve a lot of the issues, because the land that they're walking into is owned by somebody, and as long as they're there on that person's permission, then it shouldn't really be a big deal. But having the government involved actually creates a black market for the freedom to travel, and that's where you get a lot of the illegal immigrants coming, either on boats, on even just airplanes. Most illegal immigrants get here on an airplane and they just don't renew their work visas. But once again, if I'm hiring somebody from another country and I'm allowing them to be here and work for me, that seems like it's a free market solution versus getting the government out of it completely. That's ultimately what I would like to see as well.
Well, one thing's for sure is that as long as Biden's running it, it will be incoherent. And speaking of Biden being incoherent, let's get to our Knucklehead Noise Patrol here at the end. James, can you bring up that video? This has to do with Biden. He has essentially been in these negotiations with McCarthy about the debt ceiling. And that, McCarthy has sort of tried to offer a compromise. Hey, you cut so much spending in the future and we'll relax this debt ceiling right now for you. And Biden doesn't seem to know what McCarthy's talking about. And maybe you could show this clip, James.
He is proposing. Is there any room for negotiation?
What's he proposing? Did he tell you?
He talked about.
No, I'm not being facetious. Did he tell you what he's proposing?
He was talking about the bill.
Yeah, but what does it propose? Do you know? I'm not being a wise guy. You all are very, very informed people. Do you know what that bill cuts?
There is a long list of things that it cuts.
No, it doesn't say. It says, does it say what it's going to cut? Or just say generically it's going to cut?
It's like, who's on first? He said, the reporter's telling him, hey, there's a list of things in the bill. You just have to read it. And he's like, you mean there's things in there? And James,
read these things?
Yeah, and James, too, maybe I could get the visual up real quick just before I kick it off to you guys here. But here is an article from Reuters. Mr. Biden, just go pick up the paper and read it. These are all the things that it says that McCarthy has in there, as far as he wants to claw back some of the COVID funds. He wants to cancel the student debt relief. He wants to kill a lot of that IRS extra funding that just happened. So there's a whole list of things here. And he's like, there's things in there. Yeah. Whatever. Wait, you guys.
Did he tell you? Did he tell you what he wanted to cut? Did he tell you?
Yeah. He didn't tell me. You guys have any thought? I mean, this is so sad because we literally have 32 trillion. I mean, shouldn't be a laughing matter. It's 32 trillion is the debt, and it has been skyrocketing upwards. And usually we have some visuals to show, but I didn't set those up before the show this time. But it's crazy. I mean, we're in. Like all the warning signs are flashing bright red, and it's just like these guys are just driving straight into the fog.
And you know what is ridiculous? You know what is ridiculous about Timmy? You're going to say something. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just, I don't know if we want to do this late in the show, but yeah, maybe save it for another time. But I wanted to mention that if we lost reserve status of the dollar, we would not be able to go into these kinds of massive amounts of debt. We would be like everybody else. And honestly, I think it would be better off. We American citizens would be better off in the long run if we lost the ability to completely go as far into debt as the federal government wants to go. Yeah, I would like to see kind of the fallout of that. And I think I will, because I think we will eventually lose the reserve currency status. And so, but I think it'll be a good thing. And this kind of complete nonsense where, the president doesn't even want to talk about things that absolutely are important. For whether it's because he's brain dead or because he just doesn't want to, it doesn't matter. He doesn't want to. This is ludicrous. However,
he's brain dead. We know that.
Yeah, and if we lost reserve currency status, we would not be able to do this massive amount of going into debt. We just wouldn't be able to do it. It wouldn't be workable. So I think that might be a good thing. That's all.
I'm willing to bet that 75 to 80% of the people in Congress don't actually read the full bills. Like, there's no way. If you're looking
they don't
back,
have time. They don't have
yeah,
time.
well, Rand Paul said as much during, the COVID stuff. They're passing all these big spending bills with very little time, like the Ukrainian relief packages, the COVID relief packages, all of this stuff. And we're giving billions and trillions of dollars away, but they literally had like a couple of days to read through this like thousands of pages bill. Like, it's just not possible. You know what I mean? And he proposed that people should be required to read these things before they actually vote on them. And it sounds like a crazy idea to a lot of people, but that obviously, nobody wants that. They just want the money to keep flowing. So,
Well, we remember too that Pelosi, that famous line, well, we can find out what's in it once we pass.
Yeah, we gotta pass it. We gotta pass the bill to find out what's in it. I mean,
Yeah.
this whole thing is insane. Okay, we are 32 trillion dollars in debt, and I mean, Biden is acting like he's a deer in the headlights. He don't know what the hell is going on. What the Republicans and McCarthy is proposing have passed through the House of Representatives. It's not to say like it is some secret. It is passed through the House of Representatives. If Biden want to find out, he have tons of aides there who could brief him on what the hell is going on. But he's there confused. Oh, did he tell you? Did he tell you what's in the bill? Did he tell you what he's proposing? What he's proposing is in the bill, Mr. Biden. If he didn't figure that out as yet, okay, he didn't figure that out yet. It passed through the House of Representatives. If he didn't get that, but all they keep talking about is, look at the word they're using. They want a clean debt ceiling bill, a clean one. So if you put anything else besides let's keep on spending forever, if you put anything else in such a bill, it becomes dirty. We have to have a clean bill. You notice they're nice words they always choose. A clean bill. These people are insane. That's what they are. They're insane.
That is insane. But here we are.
Well, I guess it's insane. We're out of time again. And before we go, let me pull up the page again. James, real quick, this is the Merrimack County or Valley, rather, Libertarian Party page. So, and, you can go check out more of what they're doing on that Facebook page. And also, too, there is the Free State Project and PorcFest to check out a little more, too. If you're living in a state where you're kind of looking around and thinking, oh, my gosh, what the heck's happening? And you want a little more liberty, it sounds like New Hampshire is trying to open the door on some of that stuff. So do you have any final thoughts you wanted to share with us, Ben?
Yes. There is no place that liberty is actually winning in the United States more than in New Hampshire. And that is very much so thanks to people in the Free State Project. So if you're interested in seeing liberty progress in the most decentralized liberty-friendly state in the country, you should move or consider moving to the Libertarian homeland. So
awesome. Well, thanks so much.
Live free or die.
Live free or die. Absolutely. Death is not the worst of evils.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Ben. And if you liked what you heard today, we interviewed Ben on another show where we talked a little bit more about his background and the offices that he's, planning to run for sheriff again in the future down there in New Hampshire. So, great luck to you, Ben, on that. And thanks so much for joining us on the show today. So it's great hearing about it. And thank you all for joining us out there. And until next time, stay tuned and stay free.
Yes, indeed. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.